Warning, this program is entirely fictional and made by a sole Canadian man. All characters and events in the show, including the host, even those that are based on real people, are entirely fictional. The following program contains mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
America, the land of the free, home of the brave, and the stupid, and the criminally insane.
Who's this?
The United States has seen its fair share of gangbangers, mobsters, and psychotics who've roamed our beloved streets, causing untold chaos, destruction, and corruption. Tonight on Grand Theft Auto Biographies. Military coups, adult film stars, and treacherous swine. Tonight we will examine the life of a Central American war criminal and self-purported revolutionary who helped shape the drug scene of Vice City during that magical decade that was the 1980s. We will follow not just his story, but also the lives of his daughter and right-hand man, whose own stories in the Sunshine State are inextricably linked to this very influential man. We will see revolutions, yacht parties, and an intense hatred for the French that even this reporter cannot hope to match, as we take a look at the life of Colonel Juan Garcia Cortez, his daughter Mercedes, and his right-hand man, Gonzalez. This episode of Grand Theft Auto Biographies brought to you by my incredible supporters on Patreon, and a special thank you to my executive producer tier patrons, Mo S., XX Anti-Tricks Never Sorry 17 XX, Wiggly Pizza Pants, Ezra Hambrick, and Mason Collins. Ezra also has a YouTube channel, Scott Games 99, where they play games like Red Dead Redemption 2, MLB The Show 22, Vice City Definitive Edition, and more, so go support the show by showing them some love. Get access to all of the perks listed on the screen at the producer tier, or promo your own content by becoming an executive producer tier patron. Help me reach my Season 3 goal so I can keep producing shows for you guys for a long time to come. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the show. Our story tonight begins somewhere in Central America, possibly the Dominican Republic, though this remains unconfirmed. It is here, likely sometime in the 1930s, that the future Colonel Juan Garcia Cortez would be born, and grow up surrounded by chaotic fighting, which seemed to plague his nation throughout his lifetime. Further south in the beautiful nation of Colombia, Cortez's future right-hand man, Gonzalez, would be born, likely half a decade or more after Cortez, though exact birth dates for either man could not be obtained by our investigators. In fact, details on the early lives of both Juan Cortez and Gonzalez are quite sparse, and their childhoods remain a complete mystery to all but their closest friends and family. The real dirt on both men would begin to surface when Juan took it upon himself to become a liberator, or at least begin paying lip service to this ideal. Juan Cortez would join the military in his home country and slowly begin to work his way up the ranks using the most ruthless methods imaginable, even for a nation so frequently chaotic as his own. Far less is known about Gonzalez's early years, with little to no information existing on his whereabouts prior to meeting and working with Juan Cortez. He was known to have been married at some point, but any details on the identity of his wife, or if the two ever had children, remains unknown. Given that we also do not know exactly when Cortez would become involved in the drug trade, which provided the basis for tonight's biography, it is difficult or impossible to know when he would begin working with Gonzalez, or under what circumstances. All that is known for a certainty is that by 1984, the two men were strong allies, and even friends. Also likely sometime prior to his move stateside, Juan Cortez would marry and father his only child, a daughter, Mercedes Cortez, though tragically his wife would pass away sometime prior to 1986, leaving Mercedes to be raised by Juan on his own. Over the course of his military career, Juan Cortez would participate in, possibly even initiating, dozens of coups against the standing government. According to records at the VCPD in the 1980s, by 1986, he had survived and participated in as many as 30 coups and received at least 9 death sentences, which were obviously never executed. With each successful coup and subsequent change of government, Cortez would always manage to maintain his own power, and by middle age, he would attain the rank of colonel, continuing to cultivate a public image of trustworthiness, ruthlessness, and sophistication. To this aim, the colonel would develop several expensive tastes, and use his vast sums of wealth to indulge himself in such exotic activities as eating nearly extinct species and sailing around on his massive yacht. He would also at some point develop a seething and as of yet unexplained hatred for the French government, and xenophobia towards the French in general, which likely stems from his home country having originally been colonized in some capacity by them. But if there was one thing stronger than his hatred for the French, it was his lust for more power and wealth, despite his already overwhelmingly powerful position as a military colonel and supposed man of the people. We speculate that at some point in the early 1980s, trouble in Cortez's home country, possibly due to a recent or even ongoing coup, would force him to reconsider relocation. This eventual relocation would in reality be an excuse to begin or expand his secret source of revenue, the drug trade, and may or may not have been directly related to his change in career paths. Whatever the reasons, Colonel Cortez would send Gonzalez to the shores of the United States by 1984 to begin setting up connections for his side business away from their home countries. Though we say send, in reality it isn't clear when or even how the two men met, nor is it clear when Gonzalez moved to Vice City. Therefore, it remains entirely possible that their business relationship began due to Gonzalez's existing connections in Vice rather than working together throughout their lives. Whatever the case, Gonzalez would be granted a visa to the US as a Public Health and Fitness Commission, with Cortez as a cultural attaché. In fact, Gonzalez's presence in the US was accompanied and facilitated by his diplomatic immunity, apparently being a part of a cultural affairs division of the San Dominican Consulate. This all further hints at, but again does not confirm, a long-standing relationship between Gonzalez and the colonel. Gonzalez would settle into life in Vice City, Florida, and quickly begin making contacts with cokeheads all over the city, most prominently filmmaker Rennie Wasselmeyer, who at the time was inadvertently supplying half the city with snow through their many show business connections. Eventually, Rennie would put Gonzalez in contact with rising criminal kingpin Victor Vance of the Vance crime empire, and Victor would lend his services to the colonel's right-hand man as he attempted to move products safely to a lockup in Viceport.
Are you Gonzalez?
Ah, you must be Victor. Senor, I need to get my colonel's merchandise safely to Viceport.
Your colonel? You're in the army?
Not your army. Colonel Juan Garcia Cortez is my boss.
I'll bear that in mind.
Take my copter. My men will join you.
With Victor's help, Gonzalez would manage to safely deliver the shipment to Cortez's lockup, and an alliance of convenience would form between the two.
I have lost many good men today. Men I cannot afford to lose if I am to protect my colonel's interests in the deal ahead.
If you need a bodyguard, you can do a lot worse than me. For the right price, of course.
Maybe so, but I can't trust anyone until I've discovered who leaked our arrival to those puta bandits.
Sensing Victor was a man who could be trusted to keep a secret, and already having seen his considerable skills as a gunman and a crime lord, Gonzalez would continue to hire Victor several times throughout 1984, as his ambitions grew beyond just working for the Colonel Cortez, which was apparently not paying enough. Sometime in or prior to 1984, Gonzalez would begin cutting the Colonel's coke to make a tidy profit of his own, but he would quickly discover that keeping all holes plugged on a sinking ship would only delay the inevitable. He would discover that one of his own men, Jesus, had betrayed him, possibly attempting to do exactly as he had been doing by cutting product off the top, though the exact nature of the betrayal remains unclear. What is clear is that Gonzalez and Victor would again meet at the Leaflings Country Club, where Vic would help Gonzalez plug one more leak.
Ah, Vic. I hope you play golf.
Sure. I've played a round or two.
I play around all the time, but don't tell my wife. Vic, I find the way a man plays golf says much about him.
Really?
See, for instance, I trusted Jesus over there, yet he betrayed me. I should have known better. He's a terrible golfer. Let's see if I like the way you play, huh? Then maybe we do business. I have a deal coming up very soon, Vic. Your authorities are keen to support my colonel's attempt to bring greater democracy to the Latin world. Bueno, you bastard! No one sells me out! Well played, Vic.
Thanks.
Regard this as a down payment on your services. I'll be in touch.
Having built up enough trust with Victor, Gonzalez would next hire the elder Vance brother to outright help him sell Cortez's merchandise for an extra profit. Thankfully, Victor would have no interest in ratting Gonzalez out to his boss and would gladly retrieve the product stashed in a van in Ocean Beach.
Ah, Vic, my friend. I've a small side deal requiring a sensitive touch.
Sensitive?
Let's just say I'd rather my boss didn't find out about this. Or my men, for that matter.
Let me guess. You've cut your colonel's coke to make a side profit.
Shh, Vic, please. This is, after all, the land of opportunity.
I don't care who you rip off, Gonzalez, as long as it's not me.
Bueno. The drugs are at Ocean Beach. Take them to the deal in Washington.
Upon arriving at the deal, however, the vehicle containing the drugs and Victor would be T-boned by a line runner, and the attackers would escape with Gonzalez's, in reality the Colonel's, merchandise. During the hit, Victor would be knocked unconscious and would subsequently inhale a dangerous amount of the product, though that wouldn't stop him from getting revenge.
What the fuck? You hit the van too hard. The drugs are gone everywhere. There's more in this dude than in the back.
Quit whining. Let's just get this shit up to the party on Starfish. We got bitches waiting.
Gonzalez! We got hit. The drugs, they're gone.
What? Are you fucking with me?
No, I'm not.
What's wrong with you? Are you high on my shit?
No. Yeah. I must have been breathing it in while I was out cold.
I want my drugs back, Vic. I still have a buyer who might be interested, but he's leaving town real soon. Kill the bastards who did this, and get my drugs back to the lockup.
Oh, they'll pay all right.
Victor would locate the thieves on Starfish Island and shoot his way to the stolen drugs, retrieving them before they could be sold, and potentially expose Gonzalez for his treachery to the unsuspecting Colonel Cortez.
Well, at least you managed to retrieve my merchandise. But I think, for our friendship, this is the end. Adios.
Eventually, though it isn't exactly clear how, up-and-coming drug baron Ricardo Diaz would discover Gonzalez's side business and begin blackmailing him for information on Cortez's operation, or risk having his cover blown. Having seemingly no other choice, Gonzalez would cooperate with Diaz and once again receive help from Victor Vance, as well as Diaz's men, when leaving the city with a large shipment of guns, for possibly one of the Colonel's many military coups, or simply future resale.
Take the guns back to your colonel, but remember, you belong to me now. Any shipments you bring to Vice City comes through me.
See, no problem.
Vic, I was just talking to my new friend Gonzalez about loyalty. How I will look after him so long as he does what he's told. And you will do as you're told, won't you?
Sí.
Bueno. Let's go ahead to the airport, Vic. Show him what it means to be a friend of Ricardo Diaz, and what it is to be an enemy.
Pursued by members of the Sharks gang, Victor would protect Gonzalez's convoy en route to Escobar International Airport, and provide the men on the ground with sufficient cover for them to pack up and return promptly to Colonel Cortez, somewhere in Central America. By 1986, circumstance or simple desire would finally bring the Colonel himself stateside, and he would begin living in Vice City, purchasing a luxury villa and filling it with servants to attend his every need. Gonzalez by this time would also return to America, but be far less active in the Vice City criminal underworld now that his boss was directly watching his every move. Cortez himself would take to life in Vice City like a fish to water, and quite quickly become a well-known and highly sought-after public figure, due in large part to the extravagant parties he would host aboard his yacht in Ocean Beach, attended by celebrities, politicians, and crime lords from across the state and beyond.
To you, I am Colonel Juan Garcia Cortez. To my people, I am a hero, a patriot. My love for my country knows no bounds. I will give everything if that is what is asked of me. And if my people need me most in Vice City, promoting our needs, encouraging trade, and improving our standing, then that is where I will go, for my people. Sometimes as I stand in the luxury villa my people pay for, or relax at another party, I know I would rather be at home in the mountains, waiting for the harvest to ripen, sharing a joke with my people. But that has not been my fortune. It is my curse to live in luxury in the United States in order to...
His presence in Vice City, given his well-known military background in Central America, as well as his right-hand man's role in the city's underworld, would be immediately known to the VCPD. They would bug his villa, and as a result, the colonel would begin living almost exclusively on his yacht to keep his affairs private. With connections already established by '86 thanks to Gonzalez, Cortez would also quite rapidly become a go-to middleman for major drug deals between parties from all across the country's underworld. He would set up one such deal with Forelli family lawyer Ken Rosenberg to purchase several kilos of cocaine from the effectively retired Vance crime empire, who had been operating quietly out of Colombia for the last 2 years. Unfortunately for practically everyone involved, however, this deal, as with all of the Colonel's deals, would be known about by Gonzalez, who was still under obligation of blackmail, reporting to the opportunistic Ricardo Diaz. Upon hearing of the deal meant to take place in Viceport from Gonzalez, Diaz would send a group of his men to ambush the meet, and in the ensuing chaos, Victor Vance, along with Forelli associates Harry and Lee, would be killed, while all other parties fled, allowing Diaz to take both the money and the product.
Come on, get out of here, drive!
Following the botched deal, Cortez would remain calm and composed while he began inquiries into who might have been responsible for the leak. He would host one of his yacht parties shortly after, and among the guest list would be Forelli lawyer Ken Rosenberg, but his recent brush with death would leave him too paranoid to attend, and in his stead, he would send the other survivor from the ambush and the infamous Forelli soldier, Tommy Vercetti. Reassuring Vercetti that the thieves would eventually be found, he would introduce Tommy to his daughter, Mercedes, and almost immediately the two would become interested in one another.
Will you be working for my father?
Maybe.
Do you mind me resting my hand in your lap?
Maybe.
It's so difficult having a rich and powerful father. Vamos.
Having a personal distaste for Ricardo Diaz, Mercedes would use Tommy as an excuse to leave the party early, and ask him to take her where she really wanted to go, the pole position strip club.
See you around, handsome. Batsu Thunder.
I'm sure you will.
Mercedes would remain connected to Tommy through his relationship to her father, and eventually, the two would meet again when Vercetti began working with Kent Paul to help the band Love Fist, who were always looking for a good time.
Hey, Mercedes.
Hiya, Tommy. And how are you?
Just fine. Listen, you fancy having Love Fist?
Okay. But just as a favor, I expect return. I see you later, big boy.
Ancient Greek principle of enlightened debate and the American principle of free speech. Or is that the ancient Greek principle of feeding white?
Believing he knew the kind of girl Mercedes was, he would introduce her to the group, and inadvertently Paul, who would go on to claim he'd also slept with the Colonel's daughter, despite all evidence to the contrary. Mercedes would also be present at the celebration which followed Tommy and crew's successful robbery of El Banco Corrupto Grande in Little Havana, though it remains unclear if at this time, or any time, she became intimate with Vercetti himself. Having already gone through all of Love Fist and always looking for more fun, Mercedes would gladly accept Tommy's offer when later that year, he offered her a job at Interglobal Films, as an adult film star, along with Candy Sucks.
Hey, Mercedes.
Hey, Tommy. You want a party?
Not now, sweets. You interested in doing some movies?
Of course, as long as it's cheap and sleazy.
You're hired. Get in.
Hey, Tommy. You coming in for a warm-up?
Maybe later, babe.
She would be such a natural as an actor that even director Steve Scott would be impressed with her talents, and by all accounts, she would be a highly successful star in the Vice City smut scene of the 1980s. It isn't clear for how long Mercedes continued to star in films for Steve Scott or others, but she would remain in America for possibly her entire adult life, even following her father's departure in 1986 for personal and business reasons.
How's filming going, Steve?
Well, Candy is a natural. And that new girl, she's insatiable. She went through half the cast and crew before I even took a light reading.
Back with Juan Cortez, he would personally reach out to Tommy Vercetti following his attendance at his yacht party, and encourage him to come and meet privately to further discuss their options.
Hola, is this Mr. Vercetti?
Yeah.
This is Cortez. You were at my party?
Yeah, I remember.
Mr. Vercetti, it was a most unfortunate incident that happened with your business deal.
I know.
I want you to know me and my people are doing their utmost to get to the bottom of it. If you'd like to talk to me more privately, you can find me at the boat, huh? Okay? Good day, senor.
Somewhere along the way, Cortez would discover Gonzalez's previous side business skimming profits off of his product, and learn of his big mouth regarding the botched deal. No longer trusting his own right-hand man, Cortez would suggest that Tommy personally kill Gonzalez, though at the time, neither man would be completely aware of his role in the ambush to begin with due to his alliance to Ricardo Diaz. Vercetti would find Gonzalez lounging at his penthouse in Vice Point near the Malibu Club, and after eliminating his guards, chase him down in the street with a chainsaw in hand, which according to our investigations, ended exactly as one might expect.
Starting my own thing now. I'm gonna shut that big mouth of yours. He's got a blade. Stop running, you fat slime ball. Get away from me, you bastard.
71 South Vice Point. This was a 7.
Oh, sweet Jesus! I've wasted my life and my looks. Stand still and I'll make it quick.
Following Gonzalez's death, neither Tommy or Cortez would in reality be any closer to locating the thieves, and so Cortez would continue inquiries while hiring Tommy to help him in his ongoing conflict with the French police. Exactly what Colonel Cortez intended to do with the French missile technology remains unclear, but given his track record, we cannot imagine it was anything good.
Down on my shopping bag.
The rain, she's très wet this time of the year.
What?
Ah, comment?
Look, Cortez sent me. Just give me the damn chips.
Oh, d'accord.
Freeze imperialist American pig! That is propriété de the gouvernement français. Hand it over!
You American idiot! They followed you here.
Tommy would manage to chase down the French agent carrying the missile technology blueprints and retrieve them for Cortez, who we can only assume either intended to sell the information to enemies of the French or to use it himself to build missiles for another possible coup attempt in his home country. In the meantime, however, Cortez's inquiries would point him in one particular direction that was all in all not entirely surprising to the cunning colonel. He would become suspicious of Ricardo Diaz, and as a result, try to get Tommy a job defending Diaz at an upcoming deal, with the hope that Tommy could learn the truth from inside the Diaz organization.
Tomas, I appreciate your coming. Forgive me for getting straight to business. Diaz has asked me to oversee a minor business transaction.
Let's hope it goes better than last time.
Which is why I thought of you, my friend. I've dropped some protection at the multi-story car park. Pick it up, then go and watch over Diaz's men at the drop-off. Gracias, amigo.
Tommy would go on to successfully defend Diaz along with the brother of Victor Vance killed during the ambush, Lance. Having earned Diaz's trust, at least initially, the two men would continue to work for him while they tried to find concrete proof of his role in the botched deal. Meanwhile, Cortez would continue his usual mingling among his criminal and political contacts, and at some point, find a buyer interested in a piece of military hardware being moved through Vice City. Knowing that Tommy was one of the most reliable criminal contractors in the state, possibly even the country, he would once again offer him a job, just as his suspicions of Diaz boiled over into outright accusations, even if just in private.
Tommy, it's me, Colonel Cortez. Look, senor, I believe you are a man who can get things done. So please help. You can find me at the boat, huh? Diaz was pleased and would like to meet you again.
Is that a good thing?
Of course, although I'm starting to think that Diaz was responsible for our unfortunate loss.
What makes you say that?
One does not wave accusations at a man like Diaz. I'm merely thinking out loud. No matter. I have a proposal that you could profit.
I don't have time to run more errands, Cortez.
I would have thought a man with such dangerous dates would be hungry for opportunities. Please, Tommy, at least hear me out.
Go on.
I have a buyer for a piece of military hardware that is being taken through town. Pick it up for me. And once you get it, I want you to call me immediately.
Tommy would successfully retrieve and store the military hardware at one of Cortez's lockups for later sale, and not long after, learn of his partner Lance jumping the gun and attacking Diaz personally, no longer able to work for the man who killed his brother. Tommy and Lance would assault the Diaz mansion and take out not only all of his guards, but the frumpy coke lord himself, with Tommy establishing himself as the new coke kingpin of the city. With Diaz dethroned, Gonzalez disposed of, and Mercedes living her own life in the city, Cortez would return his attention to his mortal enemies, the French. Facing increased pressure from the French government following his theft of the missile chip technology, Cortez would recruit the help of Tommy Vercetti one last time in 1986 as he prepared to flee the city for an unknown amount of time.
Tommy, Tomas, it's Cortez. Look, the French are giving me all kinds of trouble, amigo. Them hypocrites. They spend 100 years stealing from poor countries, and they call me a thief, huh? I'm going to need your help as soon as possible, amigo. So please hurry, huh? Tommy, I need you, all right? I hate the damn French.
Circumstances force a hasty departure, amigo.
What's the problem?
The French want their missile technology back, and after that last incident, I feel it is time to find safer harbors.
Wouldn't it be safer to fly?
I'd be dead before I reach check-in. Besides, I need to get my merchandise out of the country.
Need another gun?
You, my friend, are worth 10 guns.
Tommy would help Cortez's yacht escape from the docks as legions of French soldiers poured onto the deck. But thankfully for Cortez, he'd chosen the perfect man for the job, and within a matter of minutes, all French forces, including an attack helicopter, would be dealt with Tommy even personally clearing a blockade of ships that were blocking the yacht's escape route. Cortez would present Tommy with his personal escape launch and bid farewell to his friend and business partner. He would apparently return to his home country for a time and be forced to once again enter the realm of politics as tensions remained high, following many years of conflicts.
Tomas, you have protected and served me well. And now you must leave us before we reach the open seas. I will lower my personal launch. Keep it, my friend. A token of my gratitude.
Thank you, Colonel.
One more request. While I'm away, could you keep an eye on Mercedes for me?
I think she could look after herself, but sure, I'll keep an eye out.
Gracias, amigo. Hasta luego.
Adios, amigo.
He would speak with Vercetti one last time in 1986 over the phone, apparently concerned for his daughter, after hearing rumors that she'd chosen the most disgraceful career path he could imagine, a lawyer.
Tomas, it's Cortez. ¿Qué pasa?
Things are interesting. How are you, my friend?
I wanted to ask you about Mercedes.
Okay. What about her?
Oh, Tommy, I hear these stories, all these stories. I don't know what to think. Maybe she thinks she can do what she likes. But Tommy, tell me, is it true?
Is what true?
These stories I hear. She really going to be a lawyer? Tommy, the shame. You know, we Cortez are a proud family. We would never allow a daughter of ours to become a lawyer. Please, tell me if it's so. I don't think I could take it.
Oh, Colonel, I can assure you, Mercedes is never going to become a lawyer. Don't worry about it.
Oh, thank you, Tommy. Tommy, thank you. The shame would be unbearable. She's a lady, not a parasite, you know? Anyway, Tommy, you must excuse me, all right? The new Minister of Interior has arrived. Many years ago, I killed his father in a failed coup, so I must be polite. Hey, good day, amigo.
What became of Juan Cortez, or his daughter for that matter, remains a mystery to this day, as he was never again known to do business in Vice City openly, and Mercedes would apparently keep her nose clean enough to remain off our investigative team's radar, at least so far. Gonzalez was an opportunistic, selfish, and seemingly quite vain individual. He carried himself with an air of superiority which in our estimation was not earned, and was not known to inspire confidence by personality alone, unlike his boss Juan Cortez. Despite apparently being good friends with Cortez, Gonzalez had no problem betraying the colonel for profit and convenience, and seemed to have few, if any, close friends due to this lack of loyalty. He was also a comparatively cowardly man when contrasted with Cortez, backing down immediately when cornered by Diaz, and fleeing rather than standing his ground when facing the admittedly intimidating presence of a Forelli assassin wielding a chainsaw. Mercedes Cortez was a free-spirited and free-loving woman who adapted to whatever circumstances she found herself in quite adeptly. She was confident and highly seductive, enjoying the company of men more than most, and taking any opportunity available to her to have fun and enjoy her youth. It would help that her father would, perhaps uncharacteristically, allow her all the freedom she wanted, never seeming to overstep her boundaries, and fearing above all that she should fall into a life of legitimate work as a lawyer or politician, rather than her promiscuous tendencies. Mercedes seemed to define herself, at least during what we assume to be her mid-20s in the 80s, by her sexual appetite, and always stood ready to try new things, while maintaining her own personal standards. She openly acted in pornographic films for Steve Scott, slept with rock stars such as Love Fist and possibly many others, and even occasionally worked as a dancer at the Pole Position Club, for either extra cash or simply extra fun. It isn't clear if she continued this lifestyle indefinitely, or came to regret it to any extent like her co-worker Candy Sucks, but during the brief period in which she was associated with Tommy Vercetti in the 80s, she did not appear to give any fucks whatsoever. Juan Garcia Cortez was at a glance an honest, hardworking, and trustworthy man of the people. Upon further inspection, however, it is quite clear to our investigative team that beneath his charismatic exterior lay a violent, dishonest, and greedy dictator, who might as well have laid claim to his home country had any of his coup attempts gone the way he'd intended. To his criminal allies, Juan Cortez was exceedingly loyal and honest, treating those whom he respected with an equal measure of dignity, while politely smiling at his enemies as he positioned himself to strike. To the public of his home country and even Vice City, he was a political envoy, seeking to build a bridge between his country and the glorious US of A. But to the underworld, he was a feared, respected, and decorated war hero, who proved time and time again that he was not a man to be trifled with. While claiming to be humble and cursed to live in luxury, he would enjoy consuming rare and nearly extinct animals aboard his expensive yacht. While claiming to be a man of the peace and only seeking justice, he would meddle in foreign affairs by stealing top-secret missile chip technology. And while claiming to be in the US to facilitate relations with his home country, he would set up drug deals to line his already considerably hefty pockets. Due to the ambiguity surrounding Cortez's life both before and after his time in America during the 80s, few conclusions can be reached concretely regarding his character or motivations. But based solely on what little information we do have on him, we feel confident in stating he was among the most ruthless, charming, and memorable characters to grace the Florida drug scene during that most infamous of decades. Both Juan Cortez and his right-hand man Gonzalez would have a number of crimes attributed to them during their brief time in America during the 80s. One must keep in mind, however, as we have already stated tonight, we do not, and moreover we cannot, know what these men got up to back in their home countries, due to our requests for information being repeatedly denied. Both men technically managed to fly under the radar of the American authorities during their stay, but if there is one thing we here at GTA Biographies are proud to do, it's sling accusations of criminality at people who are more than likely long dead. Beginning with Gonzalez, the crimes we were able to attribute to him are as follows. Drug dealing, drug distribution, and accessory murder when importing a shipment of the Colonel's coke and stashing it at a lockup in Viceport, with help from Victor Vance. Conspiracy accessory murder and torture when tying his former employee Jesus to a buoy and shooting golf balls at him. Drug dealing, drug distribution, and accessory murder when recruiting Vic Vance to sell some of the Colonel's coke for a side profit, which ends in Victor tracking down and killing several thieves. And sale of illegal firearms and accessory murder when fleeing Vice City in 1984 while pursued by members of the Sharks gang. And as for Juan Cortez, his known crimes are as follows. At least 30 attempted military coups which seemingly all ended in failure. Fleeing at least 9 death sentences in his home country. Drug dealing and drug distribution in his home country, as well as accessory drug dealing when facilitating deals in America. Conspiracy accessory murder when hiring Tommy Vercetti to kill Gonzalez and his men. Theft of military technology and accessory murder when hiring Tommy Vercetti to meet a French agent selling missile chip technology. Accessory murder when getting Tommy a job defending a drug deal for Ricardo Diaz. Theft of military technology and accessory murder when hiring Tommy Vercetti to intercept a tank being driven through the city. And evading authorities and conspiracy accessory murder when fleeing Vice City and the French government in 1986 with help from Tommy Vercetti. Given that both men were either directly or indirectly responsible for nearly 100 murders each in just the 2 years they spent in Vice City, it seems safe to assume that whatever their full rap sheets contained, they would be far longer than what we've compiled here today. Unlike her father, Mercedes Cortez does not appear to have been directly tied to any outright crime during her stay in Vice City, with the possible exception of her presence at a celebration following Tommy's bank robbery. Given that no physical evidence or even reliable hearsay links her to any other known crimes, it also seems safe to assume that Mercedes, while making her father proud, would live a far less controversial lifestyle, and adapt quite well to life in America. As for Juan Cortez, nobody knows what happened to him following his return to his home country, but if we had to place our bets, we'd say he was finally outwitted during an attempted coup, or he'd finally staged a successful one. What made the allure of the 1980s so intoxicating to so many different people? Was it the glitz and glamour of the nightclubs and the hair metal bands plastered on every billboard? Or was it the all-powerful substance we've all come to raise our noses at, cocaine? We'll let you decide, America, but one thing is for certain in this crazy world, whether it's the 1980s or the 2020s, America is a dangerous place, folks. Stay indoors, people. You never know if that yacht party you attended was hosted by a Central American dictator who also sells you drugs. I'll see you next time on another exciting edition of Grand Theft Auto Biographies with me, your host, Guiness Walker. Thank you for watching.